Is the Pentagon about to reveal what it knows about UFOs? Find out next on The Edge. Greetings, my fellow fringe connoisseurs. This is your host, J. Jordan Hawk, and you're watching On The Edge. We've got some pretty shocking UFO news for you today. Former Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, has been making headlines lately for a recent interview where he gave some intriguing spoilers of what to expect from an upcoming report about what the Pentagon knows about UFOs. This isn't entirely unexpected. Recall, the Pentagon already confirmed in 2019 the validity of 3 UFO videos involving strange encounters between Navy pilots of what they prefer to call unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, that were buzzing the USS Nimitz and USS Theodore Roosevelt back in 2004, and later videos from 2014 to 15. These have been dubbed the Tic-Tac UFOs, given their oblong shape. And enormous Tic-Tacs at that, considering these are estimated to be 40 feet long. This authentication by the Pentagon and subsequent release of the video evidence is the first time the Pentagon has disclosed the existence of UFOs. UAPs. Flash forward to December of 2020, while everyone in Congress was debating the merits of a new $2.3 trillion COVID relief stimulus bill, congressmen successfully added to the bill that the Pentagon must come clean with what it knows about UFOs in June of 2021, just a few months away. And as excited as I was to receive my stimulus check, I think I'm more interested in this upcoming UFO report. According to the Washington Post, the report must include detailed analysis of unidentified aerial phenomena data and intelligence. What can we expect from that upcoming disclosure? Ratcliffe gives a tantalizing sneak peek. He starts by claiming that the Tic-Tac UFOs are the tip of the iceberg, that the government is in fact aware of many more sightings than what has so far been acknowledged. Ratcliffe says, there are a lot more sightings than have been made public, and when we talk about sightings, we are talking about objects that have been seen by Navy or Air Force pilots or have been picked up by satellite imagery that frankly engage in actions that are difficult to explain, movements that are hard to replicate, that we don't have the technology for, or traveling at speeds that exceed the sound barrier without a sonic boom. This confirms what former Senator Harry Reid said when he announced that the Tic-Tac UFOs only scratches the surface of research and materials available. I know skeptics like to dismiss UFO believers as redneck hicks from Watsika, Illinois, who had too much to drink while driving on rural roads at 3 a.m. with no other witnesses around. And fine, okay, that probably does describe your average UFO believer from Watsika, Illinois. But please, debunkers, for 1 second, understand that this is coming from the former Director of National Intelligence from May 2020 to January of 2021. That's 8 months that he had this position. That's pretty much a record in the Trump administration. Ratcliffe goes on to point out that much of the evidence is not in fact just a sole pilot as an eyewitness. He says, it's not just a pilot or just a satellite or some intelligence collection. Usually we have multiple sensors that are picking up these things. The report technically is not binding, so it's possible the Pentagon won't release anything. According to the Washington Post, it isn't statute, but the agency's departments generally treat report language as bill language. But come on, when has the Pentagon ever disappointed us? And spokesperson for the current Director of National Intelligence assured Political, quote, we are aware of the requirements and will respond accordingly, unquote. Ratcliffe, meanwhile, tells us that conventional explanations have already been studied and dismissed. We always look for an explanation, but there are instances where we don't have good explanations for some of the things that we've seen. The Pentagon may not have good explanations for what they've seen, but those really smart skeptics sure do. They are having none of this UAP crap. You're familiar with the term skeptic, right? Skeptics are those who will believe every argument in the world against something being unconventional, no matter how outrageous that argument, even when the Pentagon outright tells them this is unconventional. Former video game programmer turned professional debunker Mick West has gained fame denouncing the Pentagon, the Navy pilots, and anyone else who believes there is something odd with the Tic-Tac videos. Mick West put his expertise to the videos and concluded, amongst other things, that what is revealed in the video is probably a bird, glare from a plane, or even a balloon. Of the Nimitz video, he said, quote, You're looking basically at the tailpipe of an FA-18 that's like 10 miles away, West asserted on his YouTube channel. Greetings, by the way, to a fellow YouTuber. By the way, he gets a little testy when people like me say he believes these videos show birds. I don't even know how I got that idea. It's not like he posted it to Twitter or anything. I personally think it's unfortunate that the engineers who have been paid billions by the Pentagon to develop state-of-the-art technology for them never considered birds or balloons or glare. Of course, Mick West has completely ignored the eyewitness testimony of the pilots who actually saw these things. It seems Mr. West also gets a bit testy when people complain that he is ignoring witness testimony. He assures us he is only commenting on the videos, not the witnesses. It seems to me that's a lot like showing a video of a car pulling up to a bank and then the video cuts out, but multiple witnesses say a man got out and robbed the bank. The skeptics reply, that's not what the video shows. Luis Elizondo, former head of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program for the Pentagon, aka ATIP, agreed to an interview on Mick West's YouTube channel to defend his own work with ATIP. Elizondo, like Ratcliffe, was very quick to point out that the Pentagon is not relying solely on single-source reporting, such as the videos, and that there were also radar detections and pilot testimony. Elizondo says, there was certainly additional information that made it very, very compelling. The data we had did not indicate that you're just looking at glare, as Mick West insisted. Elizondo then pulled a mic drop on Mr. West. Quote, we had truly some of the finest engineers and scientists and other organizations within the intelligence community providing that data to us because we're not engineers. We really needed those experts to tell us what it is we're seeing. And the discussion with the pilots is also very interesting because according to them, and again, according to radar data, not just what you see in the camera, that the performance characteristics of this object, that there was some very compelling signatures associated with that video. Not to be outdone by inconvenient multiple source reporting, Mr. West changed the subject and pointed to a famous Chilean video analyzed by Chilean experts within the government for 2 years before being released to the public by the Chilean government as unknown. Mr. West pointed out that 2 weeks on the internet and a bunch of geeks figured out it was a plane. Mr. West implies that since the Chilean government messed up, perhaps the Pentagon did as well. He says to Elizondo, I think there is a possibility that you're mistaken, and your group is mistaken, even though they are talented people and they got all this extra information. Wow, Mr. West, really? Are you really pulling out the tired, smart people in Chile made a mistake, so you probably did too argument? I expect more from a fellow YouTuber. All right, let's be fair to Mr. West and examine his argument. Since smart people in Chile were confused, smart people at the Pentagon are confused as well. And of course, Mr. West is a smart person who is not confused, so you should listen to him instead. Yep, those engineers working for the Pentagon never considered glare or balloons or birds. Elizondo politely and patiently countered that he's seen the data, he says. And I can tell you that the senators have now received similar, more relevant data, and they are all unanimously coming out saying the same thing. Anybody who has received that classified briefing has come out and said, we need to take this seriously. I found an interesting interview circulating on the interwebs where Mick West is discussing conspiracy theorists who believe the US government did 9/11. He's trying to paint all conspiracy theorists with the same brush when he points out that they see reality in a different way. He says, they prefer the one where the government is evil. Now that's cute because apply that logic to this situation. Navy pilots have visually seen these UFOs. The head of ATIP for the Pentagon has seen the evidence. The former head of national intelligence and several senators, along with optical engineers and aerospace engineers working for the Pentagon, they have all seen this evidence. I'm pretty sure that's the government, Mr. West. So in this scenario, it seems to me that you prefer to think that the government is evil, or lying, or just outright deceiving us, or maybe just Chilean. Now, having said that, Mr. West does have a point. Being smart or simply having a position of authority doesn't mean you're correct, and it certainly doesn't mean you don't have any biases. Unfortunately, John Ratcliffe, the former director of national intelligence that started this story, even with the seriousness of his position, he is not exactly a reliable source of information, given his penchant for peddling unverified intelligence and politicizing it. Perhaps that's why he lasted so long in the Trump administration. But at the same time, as has been said, this information is corroborated by many sources, and frankly, we don't have much longer to wait to see the report they are supposed to release. Well, perhaps we'll have to wait longer than we thought. Senator Marco Rubio, who is on the Senate Intelligence Committee and has received briefings about the UAPs, expressed doubt that we'll get the report on time. Quote, "I'm not sure they're going to come in on time, to be honest with you, because they miss a lot of deadlines on these sorts of things. But he does say we'll get a report at some point." He was asked pointedly by Fox Business host Mariah Bartiromo if UFOs have been seen. His response shockingly didn't mention glare, birds, or balloons. Instead, Rubio states, "We have lots of reports about what we call unidentified aerial phenomena. Sometimes we wonder whether or not our adversaries have technologies that are a little bit further down the road than we thought or that we realized." When prodded more generally, "What can you tell us about UFOs?" he replied, "Well, we have things flying over military installations and other places, and we don't know what it is. It isn't ours. It isn't anything that's registered with the FAA, and in many cases exhibits attributes of things. We've never seen technology, the kinds of technology we haven't seen before." He continued with a heavy dose of sanity. "We have to try to know what it is. That's my view of it without any preconceived notions. Maybe there's a logical explanation. Maybe it's something that can be explained away. Maybe it's a foreign adversary who made a technological leap, as you've heard the former DNI said. Whatever it is, we need to know the answer to it. The problem with this issue, every time you raise it, people get all nervous." I can sense Mr. West getting nervous right now. "Oh, calm down, Mr. West." Senator Rubio was quick to dismiss aliens. "It's very simple. There are things flying over national security installations. We don't know who they are. I don't know what it is. It isn't ours. We need to find out." See, Mr. West, no aliens in that quote. In fact, here is the rest of the statement so Mr. West can get some sleep. "There's a stigma associated with it, and that's, I think, needs to go away. We don't have any preconceived notions about what this is or isn't. We just need to know, or we need to start trying to know. I think the first step is to ask the question. If you don't ask the question, you're not going to begin to get answers." Now, when I agree with Mr. Rubio, it's time to pay attention. Let's find out. But for now, I'm betting it's not birds or rotating jet glare. As Luis Elizondo points out, there are really only three possibilities. Number one, experimental aircraft that for some reason are being tested on our own military without their knowledge. Number two, the technology belongs to one of our adversaries, which would indicate an intelligence failure of unbelievable proportions according to Elizondo. Number three, it's otherworldly technology. To be fair to Mr. West, after all, he is a YouTuber like myself, let's add number four as an explanation. Birds, balloons, and rotating glare. So, there are four possibilities. Now, that fourth possibility does ignore witness testimony, radar evidence, and really smart engineers working for the Pentagon and not the Chilean government. But still, let's leave it up as a possibility so Mr. West can get some sleep. Which of these four is correct? We'll just have to wait till June to find out. And that's our show for today, everyone. I'm your host, J. Jordan Hawk. See you next time on The Edge. And if you like my content, be sure to check out my award-winning young adult novels, including Puku is the Outcast, A Scout is Brave, and Onwachigi the Dreamer.